The Islanders and Flyers face off in a rematch tonight, but will we see old-time hockey? Plus, an honor for Ilya Sorokin and some questions about Mathew Barzal. We've got all that and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today and be part of the Locked On Islanders family. And I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. But first, if you have something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment about something we've said, or maybe a topic you'd like us to explore on a future episode, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we are happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. And I am also live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So follow along for some instant insight and analysis. And hey, make a comment, send me a DM. It's always great to interact with Islanders fans, game time and every time. So that is what I am looking forward to, and I hope to hear from you soon. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. First off, an honor for Ilya Sorokin. Sorokin named the NHL's third star of the week for last week. Now, Sorokin went 3-0, led all netminders in the NHL with 103 saves in 107 shots. So a pretty impressive run there for Sorokin. And of course, the 49 save shutout last week against Edmonton, definitely a part of it. His second shutout of the year and 12th of his career. By the way, that 49 save shutout, third most in Islanders history. Only Yaroslav Halak, who had 51, and Glenn Healy, who had 50, have topped that. And it's also the third most shots in a shutout this season in the NHL. So congratulations to Ilya Sorokin. By the way, if you were wondering, Jason Robertson and Josh Morrissey were the first and second stars of the week behind Sorokin. Robertson had 6 goals in 4 games and 8 points. Morrissey, 7 points, 3 goals, 7 points in 4 games. But congratulations to Ilya Sorokin, a well-deserved win as the third star of the day. Another update, Robin Salo, who was sent down to Bridgeport on loan for Sunday's game, recalled immediately, returned from Bridgeport. So that loan is, well, needless to say, short-term. And he is back on the big club. And again, I think that it was very, very smart of the Islanders to send him down on loan and get him some ice time. The worst thing that can happen to Robin Salo right now at this stage in his development is that he doesn't play. And I think it is better for him to be in Bridgeport and playing every game and logging 22, 25, 26 minutes a game rather than being the 7th defenseman on the Islanders and not playing. You know, he's played in 4 games in the NHL all year. So I like that move by the Islanders and Lou Lamoriello to send him down, get him some ice time. And I'd like to see him play a little bit more at the NHL level. But right now, because Sebastian Aho is playing so well, That's not going to happen right away. We also have an email that wanted to read, and this one is from Robert in Great Neck. Hey, Gil, I really enjoy your podcast. I'm a lifelong Isles fan, going back to my years as a Hofstra student in the 70s, and remember fondly our 4-game playoff comeback series in 1975. The Coliseum was electric. That seemed to be the statement that this was a team with character that could win it all with a couple of added ingredients, and what a run they had. I finally got season tickets when they moved to UBS to take my grandchildren to the game. I have to take mild issue with your defense of Mathew Barzal. Granted, he is playing very good hockey, but without a doubt, he has to shoot the puck more often. It seems to me he's missing some scoring opportunities. Best regards, Robert from Great Neck. Robert, first of all, thank you for the email and for sharing your memories of the Islanders all the way back to that magnificent comeback, down 3-0, winning the series in 7 games against Pittsburgh in 1975. That was sort of the series that gave birth to the Islanders dynasty in a lot of ways. But with regards to Mathew Barzal, I agree with you. I am not going to sit here and tell you that, being the best player on this team offensively, the fact that in 23 games, Barzy has 2 goals, which puts him on pace for about 7 goals for the season. Yeah, that's not an acceptable number. But the reason I'm not being too harsh on Barzy is this. He's got 23 assists in 23 games, and he is shooting the puck more. Now, should he shoot it even more than that? He's got, 2.3, let's say, 2.2, 2.3 shots per game as I do the math quickly in my head. Among Islanders forwards right now, he is 4th on the team in shots on goal with 53. Zach Parise ahead of him at 58. Anders Lee, 59. And Brock Nelson with 71. Noah Dobson has 67, but obviously he's a defenseman. To me, Barzy is shooting the puck more often than he did last year. And the fact that he's doing that in spite of the fact that he's not scoring a lot of goals is encouraging to me. Does he still pass more than he should? Does he still need to look to shoot even more? Yeah, I absolutely think that he does, but I think he's making progress. And the fact that he does have not just a point per game through 23 games, but literally an assist per game is why I'm not being too hard on him. But Robert, I think you're right. He still does need to shoot more. And it's not just him. I think, we're seeing a little bit more from Anthony Beauvillier lately, trying to shoot the puck a little bit more. J.G. Pageau could shoot a little bit more. Kyle Palmieri could shoot a little more. We all know Josh Bailey needs to shoot. And some of these guys are predominantly playmakers. But, even someone who is predominantly a playmaker needs to take advantage of their opportunities and shoot the puck when they have a good scoring chance. And that is something I hope as the season goes on, we see more and more of from Mathew Barzal and a lot of the other Islanders forwards. We have got more to get to on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast when we come back. Will tonight's game against the Flyers go back to old-time hockey from the 80s and the 90s after all of the extracurricular activities we saw at the end of the game on Saturday? We have a full preview of tonight's game and a whole lot more still to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball. You got the World Cup going on right now in soccer, esports. Hey, we've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Hey, maybe you're confident that the Islanders will send the Flyers to their 11th straight loss. Check out the latest odds at betonline.net. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So I'm going to say something, it may be a little bit controversial, but I think that the Islanders need to put Ross Johnston into the lineup tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. Why? Well, we saw what happened in the game on Saturday at UBS Arena, where the Flyers kind of roughed things up a little bit. And, you had Tony DeAngelo going after Oliver Wahlstrom. They dropped the gloves. You had Scott Mayfield and Nicholas Deslauriers dropping the gloves. Both of them got 10-minute misconduct and 2-minute roughing penalties. And then Rasmus Ristolainen and Matt Martin. And then Zach McEwen at the end of the game going after Simon Holmstrom a little bit. So, look, the Flyers right now are a frustrated team. They have lost 10 games in a row. This is not the Broad Street Bullies of the 70s. There is no Dave Schultz. There is no, Hound Dog Kelly or Moose DuPont or, Selesky. That's not this team. But when you're losing 10 straight and you're frustrated and things are not going your way, I think that it is very possible that we see the Flyers try to get a little revenge on Oliver Wahlstrom for, they went after him. The hit he put down that led to that fight was a clean hit. And yet DeAngelo went in and went after Wahlstrom. It would not surprise me to see the Flyers come out physical and try to get after Wahlstrom, maybe to get after Mayfield. And look, the one thing you don't want to see, more than anything, you don't want to see Wahlstrom or Anders Lee or Brock Nelson or, any of the Islanders' skilled players suffering a broken hand or any other injury for that matter, because they end up dropping the gloves. And I was glad that Oliver Wahlstrom stuck up for his teammate, and defended himself and ended up, dropping the gloves with Tony DeAngelo. You got to do that. That's part of hockey, right or wrong. That's part of the code. But I want to see, I think, to me, if it were up to me, I play Ross Johnston. Maybe you sit Josh Bailey. Maybe you sit somebody else. I don't know. But I would play Ross Johnston and I would start him. If the Flyers go after anyone, Ross the Boss is already on the ice. And hopefully by doing that, you end whatever's going to happen right away. And then the teams can settle down and just play hockey. But I also think at any point, if the game gets out of hand, if the Islanders are up 4-1 in the third period, and that would be a great problem to have, it wouldn't surprise me if the Flyers try to even up what they perceive to be some scores. So we have to see, but I would play Ross Johnston for sure tonight if I were Lane Lambert, and we'll see if they do it. Meanwhile, the game coming up against the Flyers, it's a 7:30 Eastern time start. It is on ESPN Plus in Philadelphia, so can't watch it on the usual MSG network. We know Felix Sandstrom was the goalie in the last game because the last game the Flyers played, they played the Islanders on Saturday. So both teams are equally rested. We'll probably see Carter Hart, assuming he's healthy. Hart got off to an amazing start this year, but has since come back down to earth. 6-5-4 is his record this year, a .285 goals against and a 915 save percentage. But after the first 7 or 8 games of the year, his save percentage was around 940, and his record was like 6-1 or 5-1 or something like that. So certainly Carter Hart has cooled off. Look, a lot of it with this Flyers team, they're not as bad as 11 losses in a row. But you look at this injury list: Travis Konecny, Scott Lawton, day to day. I don't know if we'll see them or not tonight. James Van Riemsdyk on IR. Cam Atkinson out. Ryan Ellis done for the year, maybe for his career. Sean Couturier on IR. Bobby Brink on IR. Wade Allison on IR. It is a very difficult situation for the Philadelphia Flyers, who weren't expected to be, a contending team anyway, to come out and deal with all these injuries. And you look at the numbers, it ain't pretty for the Flyers. It's just not. They are 30th in the league out of 32 teams in goals scored, 22nd in goals against. And if you take out the first, let's say, 6 or 7 games, they're even lower percentage-wise. Their power play, dead last in the league, just 14.3% conversion rate. And the PK is just 25th in the league, killing off 73.5% of the penalties they face. They are 30th, as in they take a lot of penalties in penalty minutes, and their shooting percentage is 30th. So it's not been a pretty game or year right now for the Flyers, but they're dangerous. They're like a wounded animal. They're going to be in front of their home crowd, and the Islanders have to take them seriously to get the 2 points and extend Philadelphia's losing streak to 11 and the Islanders' winning streak to 5. The lineup, well, here's what we saw from them on Saturday. Kevin Hayes, the center of the top line, with Noah Cates and Owen Tippett on either side of him. Morgan Frost, Kiefer Bellows, the former Islander, and Zach McEwen are the second line. Tanner Lisinski centers the third line with Nicholas Deslauriers to his left, Joel Farabee to his right, and Lucas Sedlak. Jackson Cates and Patrick Brown are the fourth line. Ivan Provorov and Tony Giangelo are the top defensive pair. Travis Sanheim and Justin Braun, the second pair. And then Nick Seeler and Rasmus Ristolainen are the third pair. The goalies, again, have not changed. So it's probably going to be Carter Hart in goal for the Flyers. But again, it could again be Felix Sandstrom. It'd be interesting to see what the Islanders do. Very possible we see Varley, but could be Sorokin as well, especially since he's been so good as of late. So interesting game tonight for the Islanders, and hopefully one they can pull off, and hopefully things don't get too out of hand when it comes to the extracurriculars. But I think you got to play Ross Johnston to be ready in case anything extracurricular does take place. We have got more to get to on today's show. We've got some final thoughts about tonight's game. Plus, we've got our Islanders birthday of the day, Finn, who came over and played parts of 3 seasons with the Islanders in the mid to late 80s. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got that and a whole lot more coming up on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 57th birthday of former Islanders winger Ari Ha'anpa'a. Drafted by the Isles in the 4th round back in 1984, Ha'anpa'a, pretty big, 6'1", which was very big in the mid-'80s, but only 185 pounds. So he was big, but he wasn't thick or heavy. Joined the Islanders for the first time in 85-86, played in 18 games that year, had 7 assists. In 86-87, 41 games with the Islanders, 6 goals, 10 points. And then 1 more game with the Isles in 87-88, spending most of his time in the AHL that year in Springfield, then went back to his native Finland and closed out his career with a season in Austria and a season in Germany, retiring at the end of the 1997-98 season. And For his career, 60 career NHL games, 6 goals, 17 points, 37 penalty minutes, and he played in 6 playoff games. All of these games with the Islanders, he had no points in the 6 postseason games and 10 penalty minutes. We go back and look at one of his better games with the Islanders. March 10th, 1987, the old igloo in Pittsburgh. Islanders and Penguins. Kelly Rudy in net for the Islanders. Gil Martin, the goalie for the Pens. And early on in the game, it went scoreless through the first period. But in the second, Brent Sutter off for slashing. Pittsburgh power play. Mo Mantha puts Pittsburgh up 1-0. His sixth, Mario Lemieux and Dan Quinn with the assists. But the lead doesn't last long. The Islanders strike back less than a minute and a half later. Mikko Makala, his 21st from Brian Trottier, and our Islanders' birthday of the day, Ari Ha'anpa'a. That ties the game at 1. The Islanders then go on a power play. Doug Bodger is off for holding, and Brent Sutter makes him pay. His 27th from Randy Boyd and Brian Trottier at 5:47. That made it 2-1 Isles. And then Dwayne Sutter said, hey, if my brother can score, so can I. His 12th, Pat LaFontaine and Richard Crom, the assist at 13:30. 3-1 Isles after 40 minutes. In the third period, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Ari Ha'anpa'a, his 5th of the year. Mike Bossy and Randy Boyd, the assist at 6:32. That makes it 4-1 Isles, but then the Islanders get into some penalty trouble of their own with a double minor on Gerald Didick for roughing. Dan Quinn scores on the power play. His 26, Terry Ruskowski and Doug Bodger the assist, and it's a 4-2 game. Then Dan Quinn pulls Pittsburgh to within 4-3. His 27th from Bodger at 9:30, but Mike Bossy says that's enough. His 37th, Brian Trottier and Richard Crom the assist. An empty netter by Crom, his 11th from Trottier and Brent Sutter at 18:25, and the Islanders win it by a score of 6-3 for our Islanders' birthday of the day. Ari Ha'anpa'a, 1 goal, 1 assist, a +1. He had the game-winning goal, and he had 2 shots on goal. Kelly Rudy, 20 saves to earn the win. Islanders outshooting the Penguins 24-23 in what was a physical and fairly evenly played game. So again, we wish Ari Ha'anpa'a a very happy 57th birthday. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. And the native of Finland, a part of the Islanders for 3 seasons in the mid to late 80s. So tonight, again, my big concern for this Islanders team at this point, I'm happy with the wins, 4 in a row. I'm happy with the way this team bounces back when they get off to slow starts. I'm still waiting for that 60-minute consistent effort. And I'm not saying you got to be the dominant team for all 60 minutes. This is a game. The other team gets paid too. They're going to have moments where they play better than you do. But what you need to see, what you don't want to see very much, is for 5 or 10 minutes at a time that the Islanders are sloppy, that they're back on their heels, that they can't clear the puck, that they're turning it over at their own blue line or at center ice and creating very good scoring opportunities for the other team. These are things that seem to happen to this team consistently for chunks of every game. And to me, the Islanders need to clean that up. And look, you're going to lose some shifts. You're going to have some time when the other team is taking the play to you, but it can't be 10 minutes at a time or half a period. 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes. You've got to balance things out and be more consistent. And that, to me, is the goal the Islanders need to have. You do that, you're going to win a lot more games than you lose. And I think this Islander team is more than capable of winning tonight. These are the points you're supposed to get. The teams below you in the standings, the Metropolitan Division is going to be a dogfight. And even though the Islanders are in second place, they're not guaranteed anything. So you want to make the playoffs, you got to get 2 points in games like this one against the Flyers. Tomorrow, we'll be back with our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Flyers, and we'll have our weekly farm report. So make sure you join us for that. I want to thank you again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.